Captain Lisa Grant stood tall on the bridge of the Earth vessel Intrepid. Her dark blue uniform was perfect, not a wrinkle in sight. Today was important. Today humans would meet aliens for the first time. "Captain, we are approaching the meeting point," said Jack Miller, her navigator. Lisa nodded. "All systems check?" "All green, Captain," replied Susan Wright, her second in command. "Weapons are offline as agreed, shields at minimum power. We're showing them we come in peace." Lisa looked at the main screen. The Dralaxian ship was massive. It gleamed like polished metal in the light of a distant star. The Intrepid looked tiny next to it. "They've been watching us for decades," Lisa said quietly. "Now they finally think we're worth talking to." The communication system beeped. A voice came through, cold and flat. "Earth vessel, prepare for docking. Your captain and 2 officers will board for discussions." Lisa took a deep breath. "Acknowledge, Dralaxian flagship. We are ready." Susan looked worried. "I don't like this, Captain. We should bring security." "No," Lisa said firmly. "We follow their rules. This is too important to mess up. Jack, you and Susan will come with me. Dr. Peterson will be in charge until we return." The 3 officers walked to the airlock. Their steps echoed in the metal corridor. Lisa felt her heart beating fast, but kept her face calm. First impressions were everything. The airlock hissed open. They stepped into a long, curved hallway with walls that seemed to glow from within. 2 tall figures waited for them. The Dralaxians were at least 7 feet tall. Their skin was pale blue and looked like fine scales. They had no hair, and their eyes were large with vertical pupils like a cat's. They wore simple silver clothing that seemed to flow like water. "I am Captain Lisa Grant of the Earth Defense Fleet vessel Intrepid," Lisa said clearly. "We come representing all of humanity." The taller Dralaxian blinked slowly. "I am Admiral Zexthal of the Dralaxian Confederation. Follow me to the meeting chamber." They walked in silence through winding corridors. Jack whispered to Lisa, "They're not big on small talk, are they?" The meeting chamber was a large round room with a table in the center. 3 more Dralaxians waited there. All looked exactly like Admiral Zexthal, except for slight differences in their silver clothing. "Be seated," the Admiral said. Once they sat down, one of the Dralaxians placed a small device on the table. It projected a 3D image of Earth spinning slowly. "Your world," Admiral Zexthal said. "Primitive, but with potential. We have observed your species for 73 of your years. You have finally developed basic space travel. You have managed not to destroy yourselves with nuclear weapons. You qualify for contact." Lisa kept her expression neutral despite the condescending tone. "We appreciate the Dralaxian Confederation reaching out to humanity. We have much to learn, but also much to offer in friendship." Admiral Zexthal made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Offer? Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Your social systems are chaotic and inefficient. Your species spends more energy on emotional responses than logical thought." Jack tensed beside Lisa, but she touched his arm gently. "Different doesn't mean inferior, Admiral," Lisa said carefully. "Humans value emotion. It drives our creativity, our art, our desire to explore." The device on the table changed to show images of Earth's wars, pollution, and poverty. "Emotion also drives this," Admiral Zexthal said. "Conflict, waste, suffering. The Dralaxian Confederation can help you evolve beyond these limitations." "What exactly are you offering?" Susan asked. Admiral Zexthal's expression didn't change. "Guided evolution under Dralaxian protection. We would restructure your societies, eliminate your inefficient governments, and begin genetic modifications to reduce emotional volatility. In 10 generations, humans might be suitable for limited membership in the Confederation." Lisa felt cold. "And if we prefer to continue our own path of development?" "Unacceptable," Admiral Zexthal said immediately. "Emotional species cannot be allowed to develop advanced technology. It always leads to disaster." Lisa took a moment to choose her words carefully. "Admiral, with respect, humanity has overcome many challenges precisely because of our emotional nature. Our compassion drives us to help each other. Our curiosity pushes us to innovate. Our love for our families and worlds motivates us to solve problems. Primitive thinking, another Dralaxian cut in. Emotions are evolutionary leftovers, useful for survival in primitive conditions but dangerous in advanced civilizations. Lisa stood slowly. I'm afraid I must decline your offer, Admiral. Humans would rather face our challenges as free people than live as something else entirely. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Admiral Zexthal's vertical pupils narrowed to thin lines. You misunderstand, Captain Grant. This was not a negotiation. Your species will be assimilated or eliminated. Emotional beings cannot be permitted to spread through the galaxy. Jack stood up quickly. Is that a threat? It is reality, Admiral Zexthal said. You will return to your vessel and deliver our terms to your leaders. They have 30 Earth days to surrender control of your planet. Those who accept genetic modification will be preserved. Those who refuse will be removed. Lisa's mind raced. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to go. Admiral, surely, we can find common ground. There is no common ground between logic and emotion, Admiral Zexthal interrupted. You are dismissed. As they were escorted back to their ship, Susan whispered, What do we do, Captain? We warn Earth, Lisa said grimly, and we prepare. Once aboard the Intrepid, Lisa ordered immediate departure. Maximum speed back to Earth. We need to... Captain, the sensor officer called out. The Dralaxian fleet is moving. 6 vessels are heading toward Mars colony. Lisa watched in horror as the massive alien ships accelerated toward the red planet where 20,000 humans lived. Open a channel to them now, she ordered. They're not responding, Jack said, frantically working his controls. Can we warn the colony? Lisa asked. Susan shook her head. Not in time. On the main screen, they watched as bright flashes erupted on Mars's surface. The colony's dome shattered like glass. Everyone on the bridge fell silent. They're turning toward us now, Jack said quietly. Evasive maneuvers. Full power to engines, Lisa commanded. We need to survive to warn Earth. As the Intrepid sped away, narrowly escaping the Dralaxian ships, Lisa clenched her fists. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. 3 days later, in the emergency session of the United Earth Council, Lisa finished her report to pale-faced leaders. Dr. Alan Wright, Earth's top scientist on alien life, stood up. The Dralaxians have never met a species like us before. They see emotions as weakness because they don't understand them. They think our feelings make us easy to defeat. He looked around the room. They don't understand that humans fight hardest when protecting what we love. They've made a terrible mistake. Lisa nodded grimly. They asked for conflict, we'll show them war. 3 months had passed since the Mars massacre. Earth was in chaos. The Dralaxian ships formed a tight ring around the solar system, cutting off Earth from its outer colonies. Their message repeated daily: surrender or die. Major Steve Franklin crouched behind a broken wall on the moon's surface. His spacesuit was dirty and patched in several places. Through his helmet, he watched the Dralaxian patrol move across the gray dust. They're following the same route again, he whispered into his radio. Right on schedule. Roger that, came the quiet voice of Karen Lewis, his second in command. Team 2 is in position. Steve checked his weapon. It was a mix of Earth technology and parts taken from dead Dralaxian soldiers. Remember, aim for the neck joints in their armor. That's their weak spot. 6 weeks ago, Steve had lost his wife and daughter when the Dralaxians took over the lunar bases. Now he led 30 survivors in a guerrilla war against the aliens. They hid in abandoned mining tunnels, striking when the enemy least expected it. On my mark, Steve said as the 5 Dralaxian soldiers approached the narrow pass between 2 crater rims. 3, 2, 1, mark. Explosions erupted from the dust. The Dralaxians spun around, confused by the attack coming from multiple directions. Steve's team fired precisely. 3 aliens fell immediately. The other 2 took cover and returned fire, their energy weapons burning holes in the lunar rock. Flanking maneuver Beta, Steve called out. His team split into two groups, moving quickly to surround the remaining aliens. The fight was over in minutes. "Search them for anything useful," Steve ordered. "Then back to base. The next patrol will be here soon." At their hidden base deep under the lunar surface, Steve studied a map of Dralaxian positions. Each week they managed to push the aliens back a little more. Karen joined him, removing her helmet. Her face was tired but determined. The new jammers worked. They couldn't call for backup. Steve nodded. "Good. How's our ammunition?" "Low," she admitted. "But we captured some of their weapons this time." Steve pointed to a large structure on the map. "Their main communication center. If we can take that out, the moon outposts would be cut off from the main fleet." Karen looked doubtful. "That's heavily guarded, Steve." "Yes, but they're predictable. They think the same way every time. They can't understand why we don't surrender when the logical choice would be to save ourselves." Steve smiled grimly. "Their logic is their weakness." Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Olivia Chen hadn't slept properly in days. Her laboratory was filled with pieces of Dralaxian technology salvaged from crashed ships. Scientists from around the world worked alongside her, trying to understand the advanced alien tech. "Look at this," Olivia said, pointing to a glowing crystal component. "Their communication system doesn't use radio waves. It's some kind of quantum entanglement." Her colleague, Dr. Paul Martinez, looked up from his computer. "That matches what we found in their ship's memory banks. They communicate instantly across vast distances." Olivia carefully connected the crystal to her testing equipment. "But there's something else. The signals carry emotional imprints. It's like they're telepathic, but in a very structured way." "That explains why they hate our emotions so much," Paul said. "Our chaotic feelings might interfere with their communication." A military officer entered the lab. "Dr. Chen, Admiral Carter, wants to see you immediately." Admiral William Carter had been called out of retirement after the Mars attack. At 70 years old, he had more combat experience than anyone else in Earth's military. Now he stood before a room full of military leaders from around the world. "The Bureau. Dralaxians expect us to fight like them," he said, his voice strong despite his age. "They expect careful, logical attacks. They expect us to protect our strongest assets and abandon our weakest points." He shook his head. "We won't do any of that." He turned as Olivia entered the room. "Dr. Chen, what have you found?" Olivia stepped forward, nervous but excited. "Admiral, we've discovered two critical things about the Dralaxians. First, their ships are connected through a quantum communication network that allows instant coordination." She displayed an image of the crystal on the large screen. "Second, this network is vulnerable to emotional interference. Their telepathic abilities evolved without the complexity of human emotions. Our feelings, especially strong ones like love, hate, fear, they're like static to their communications." Admiral Carter smiled for the first time in months. "So we can jam their network with our emotions?" "Theoretically, yes. We're building devices that can amplify and broadcast human emotional states," Olivia explained. "Initial tests show it creates confusion in their ranks." "Excellent." Admiral Carter turned back to the military leaders. "Now here's my plan. Instead of defending Earth directly, we'll attack their weakest outposts with everything we have. While they're confused, we'll capture more of their ships intact." A general frowned. "But that leaves Earth exposed." "Yes," Carter agreed. "And they won't expect it because it's not logical. But humans don't fight with pure logic. We fight with heart." On the moon, Steve's team moved silently toward the Dralaxian Communication Center. They had spent weeks studying the patterns of the guards. "Their shift changes in 3 minutes," Karen whispered. "Remember, we need to take the main control room intact." Steve nodded. "Team 1 creates the diversion. Team 2 secures the entrance. Team 3 with me to the control center." The attack began with a series of explosions on the far side of the UAR facility. As Dralaxian troops rushed to respond, Steve's team slipped inside through a maintenance tunnel. The fighting was intense. 2 of Steve's people went down, but the Dralaxians were confused by the humans' willingness to sacrifice themselves for the mission. Steve reached the control center first. 3 Drillaxians turned to face him. He fired quickly, taking down 2, but the third shot hit him in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body, but he kept moving, tackling the alien to the ground. "This is for my family," he growled as he finished the alien off. Karen rushed in with the rest of the team. "Steve, you're hurt." "Secure the systems," he ordered, ignoring the blood floating in little globules in the moon's low gravity. "And contact Earth." Hours later, Steve's team had full control of the facility. More importantly, they had captured a Drillaxian scout. Ship intact. Admiral Carter's voice came through their communication system. "Major Franklin, can you fly that ship?" "Yes, sir," Steve replied, despite his injury. "We found their flight controls." "Then bring it to Earth. Dr. Chen needs to study it." As the captured ship left the moon with Steve at the controls, Karen looked at the stars. "Do you think we can really win this?" Steve thought about his lost family, about all the humans had lost. "They wanted conflict," he said quietly. "But they don't understand what happens when humans fight for what they love. We don't just fight. We win." 6 months into the war with the Drillaxians, Earth had changed. Countries that once fought each other now worked together. The whole planet focused on one goal: survival. Lisa Grant walked through the new Earth Defense Headquarters. She now wore an admiral's uniform with its extra stripes and medals. The promotion had come after her successful mission to bring back information about the Drillaxians. "Admiral Grant," called Dr. Olivia Chen from her laboratory doorway. "We're ready for the demonstration." Lisa nodded and followed Olivia into the large lab. Inside, a team of scientists worked around a strange device. It glowed with blue light and hummed softly. "Is this the emotion amplifier?" Lisa asked. Olivia smiled proudly. "Yes, we built it using parts from the scout ship Major Franklin captured." She pointed to a helmet connected to the machine. "It reads human emotions and converts them into signals that disrupt Drillaxian telepathic communication." "And it works?" Lisa asked. "We tested it on the Drillaxian prisoners. It completely confused them." Olivia's eyes sparkled with excitement. "But we discovered something even more interesting. Different emotions affect them differently." She gestured to a soldier sitting nearby. "Lieutenant Roy Baker here has a 2-year-old daughter. When he thinks about protecting her, the emotional signal is particularly powerful." Roy nodded. "I just picture Emily's face and think about keeping her safe from the Drillaxians. The aliens can't handle it." "Parental love," Lisa said thoughtfully. "The Drillaxians reproduce by cloning. They have no concept of family bonds." "Exactly," said Olivia. "We've built 50 of these devices to install on our ships." Lisa studied the machine. "How soon can they be ready for battle?" "They're ready now," Olivia replied. 2 weeks later, Admiral Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of Earth's newest ship, the Defender. It was smaller than the Drillaxian vessels, but packed with weapons and special equipment, including Olivia's emotion amplifiers. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Susan Wright, now a captain with her own command. Lisa looked at the fleet display. 20 ships hastily built with a mixture of human and captured Drillaxian technology, formed up behind the Defender. It wasn't much against the hundreds of alien ships, but it was all Earth had. "Our mission is clear," Lisa told her crew. "Break through the blockade at Jupiter and establish a base on Ganymede. From there, we can strike at their supply lines." The Earth fleet moved out from its hiding place behind the moon. Almost immediately, Drillaxian sensors detected them. "Enemy ships approaching," reported Jack Miller, still at Lisa's side as her tactical officer. 12 vessels moving to intercept." "Activate emotion amplifiers," Lisa ordered. Throughout the fleet, selected crew members put on special helmets. They thought about their families, their homes, their reasons for fighting. The amplifiers broadcast these feelings into space, aimed at the approaching Drillaxian ships. On the enemy vessels, confusion spread. Their perfect formation broke apart as their telepathic communication network filled with strange emotional noise. "They're disorganized," Jack reported with surprise. "Their ships are breaking formation." "Now's our chance," said Lisa. All ships attack pattern Delta. The Earth fleet split into 3 groups, attacking the confused Dralaxians from multiple directions. The battle was fierce. 3 Earth ships were destroyed, but the Dralaxians lost 7 before retreating. "We did it!" cheered a young officer. "That was just the first step," Lisa reminded them. "Set course for Jupiter." The journey to Jupiter took 2 weeks. The fleet hid behind the giant planet's moons, avoiding Dralaxian patrols. They set up a base on Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon, using natural caves for protection. From this base, Earth ships launched surprise attacks on Dralaxian supply vessels. Each victory brought more captured technology and weapons. One day, Lieutenant Ryan Patel approached Lisa with a bold plan. Ryan was young, just 26, but had proven himself a skilled pilot. "Admiral, I've been studying the Dralaxian flagship's movements," he said, showing her a map of the Dralaxian fleet positions. "They always keep their command ship in the center, protected by their best vessels." Lisa nodded. "We can't get near it." "Not with a normal attack," Ryan agreed. "But what if we used a single ship? One fast vessel with a minimal crew could slip through their defenses." "And do what?" Lisa asked. "Even our best weapons can't penetrate their flagship's shields." Ryan's eyes were determined. "We could ram it. One ship, loaded with explosives, could cripple their command structure." Lisa stared at him. "That would be a suicide mission." "I know," Ryan said quietly. "But I volunteer." Lisa wanted to refuse, but the military situation was desperate. Earth needed a major victory to survive. "Let me think about it," she finally said. The decision was made for her 3 days later, when the Dralaxians launched a massive attack on the Ganymede base. The Earth fleet scrambled to defend it, but they were outnumbered. In the chaos of battle, Lieutenant Ryan Patel's ship, the Swift, was hit and badly damaged. "Swift to Admiral Grant." Ryan's voice came through the communication system. "My engines are damaged. Weapons offline." "Return to base, Lieutenant," Lisa ordered. There was a pause. "No, Admiral. I can still complete the mission we discussed." Before Lisa could respond, the Swift changed course, heading directly toward the Dralaxian command ship at full speed. "Ryan, no," Lisa called out. "Tell my parents I love them," Ryan replied calmly. "And tell the Dralaxians something from me." Ryan opened a channel to the enemy flagship. As his ship accelerated toward it, he spoke clearly. "You wanted conflict? This is how humans wage war. We fight hardest when protecting others, not ourselves." The Swift crashed into the Dralaxian flagship in a blinding explosion. The massive alien vessel didn't explode, but its shields failed and its engines went dark. The Dralaxian fleet, suddenly without commands from their leaders, fell into disarray. Some ships retreated, while others continued fighting without coordination. "All ships focus fire on the damaged flagship," Lisa ordered, tears in her eyes. The Earth fleet concentrated their attack on the crippled enemy command ship. Under the combined assault, it finally broke apart. As the remaining Dralaxian ships retreated from Jupiter, Major Steve Franklin's voice came through from the Ganymede base. "Admiral, we've captured a Dralaxian officer. You need to hear what we found in their databases." Hours later, Lisa stared at the information in shock. "Are you certain about this?" Steve nodded grimly. "Completely. We're not the first species they've tried to conquer. There are at least 5 other emotional species they've enslaved or wiped out across the galaxy." Lisa's expression hardened. "Then we're not just fighting for Earth anymore." "No," Steve agreed. "We're fighting for everyone who values freedom and feelings." Lisa looked out at the stars. "And we will win." Dr. Alan Wright adjusted his spacesuit one last time. The ship shook slightly as it traveled through what the Dralaxians called fold space. Humans called it faster than light travel, and now they could do it too, thanks to captured alien technology, RC. "You nervous?" asked Kelly Martinez, his assistant. Alan nodded. "Of course. We're about to meet aliens who have been slaves for centuries. We have no idea how they'll react to us." Their ship, the Defiant, was Earth's most advanced stealth vessel. It used Dralaxian technology against its creators, bending light around, the hull to remain invisible to sensors. Admiral Grant had personally assigned Alan to this critical mission. "Find our potential allies," she had told him. "If humanity stands alone, we might not survive. But if we can unite all the emotional species, we have a chance." The Defiant carried a small team of scientists, diplomats, and soldiers. Their mission? Contact the other species enslaved by the Dralaxians and form an alliance. "Approaching Dralaxian, mining outpost K-12, announced the pilot. "Stealth systems functioning perfectly, they don't see us." Alan looked at the view screen. A dusty red planet filled the display. According to stolen Dralaxian data, this mining colony used slaves from a species called the Talon. "Take us down near the southern work camp," Alan instructed. "Scans show minimal Dralaxian presence there." The Defiant landed silently behind a ridge of red rocks. Alan led the team outside, the alien sun harsh on their faces despite their protective visors. "Movement ahead," whispered Sam Rogers, their security chief. "Looks like a work crew returning to camp." They watched as about 30 aliens trudged toward a cluster of low buildings. The Talons were thin, with pale skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Their eyes were large and completely black. Most shocking were the metal collars around their necks, Dralaxian control devices. "There are only 2 Dralaxian guards," Sam noted. "We can take them out quietly." "No," Alan said firmly. "We need to make peaceful contact with the Talons first. If they see us attack, they might think we're just another violent species." Instead, Alan's team waited until nightfall. Using scanners, they identified the building with the weakest security, a storage shed near the slave quarters. They slipped inside and waited. Hours later, a single Talon entered the shed. The alien froze upon seeing the humans, then turned to flee. "Wait," Alan said softly. "We're not Dralaxians. We're humans. We came to help you." The Talon stopped, studying them with those large black eyes. When it spoke, the voice was musical, like wind chimes. "Help? No one helps the slaves of the Dralaxians." Alan stepped forward slowly. "We fight the Dralaxians. We want freedom for all species." The Talon seemed to consider this. Then it reached up and surprisingly removed the metal collar. "This does not control us as they believe. We have learned to disable them, but we pretend they work so the Dralaxians won't make something worse." Alan smiled. "You resist in your own way. So do we." The Talon introduced itself as Alara, an elder of their people. Over the next hours, Alan learned that the Talons were empaths. They could feel and influence emotions. "The Dralaxians fear our abilities," Alara explained. "That is why they enslave us. They believe emotion is a disease that must be controlled." "Will your people help us fight them?" Alan asked. Alara's shimmering skin darkened slightly. "We are not fighters. We have been slaves for so long." "You don't need to fight with weapons," Alan explained. "Dr. Chen on Earth has developed technology that uses emotions to disrupt Dralaxian communication. Your natural abilities could make these devices much more powerful." For the first time, Alara showed something like hope. "There are others like us. Other emotional beings the Dralaxians hate?" "Yes," Alan said. "We've identified at least 2 more species besides humans and Talons, the Krell and the Vordi." "The Krell still exist?" Alara seemed surprised. "We thought they were all destroyed centuries ago." Alan showed Alara the data they had stolen. "According to this, there's a Krell reservation on the 4th planet of the Sirius system, and the Vordi are kept in ocean worlds in the Rigel sector. If you could free us all..." Ilara's voice trailed off. "That's exactly what we plan to do," Alan promised. The next day, Alan's team disabled the camp's communications and neutralized the Dralaxian guards without killing them. The Talons, once they realized what was happening, quickly joined in. By nightfall, the entire mining colony was under their control. "We need to move quickly," Sam warned. "When this outpost goes silent, They'll send ships to investigate. Alan nodded. We'll take as many Talons as the Defiant can carry. The rest will hide in the deep caves until we can send more ships. 300 Talons boarded the Defiant, filling every available space. As they lifted off, Dralaxian alarms began, blaring across the planet. Enemy ships approaching, the pilot reported tensely. Activate stealth systems, Alan ordered. The Defiant vanished from Dralaxian sensors just as their warships arrived. They slipped past the confused aliens and jumped to fold space. Meanwhile, Admiral Grant and Major Franklin continued their campaign against the Dralaxian blockade. Earthships, now equipped with improved emotion amplifiers, pushed the aliens back from Mars and the outer colonies. The Dralaxians couldn't understand why their superior technology and logical battle plans kept failing. Human unpredictability and emotional strength confounded them at every turn. 2 months later, the Defiant returned to Earth with representatives from all 3 enslaved species. The Krell were insect-like beings who communicated through patterns of color that flashed across their exoskeletons. The Vordi were aquatic creatures with tentacles and large eyes, who needed special water tanks to survive on land. In the grand meeting hall of the United Earth Defense Council, Admiral Grant welcomed them all. Despite our differences, she said, we share something the Dralaxians can never understand. Our emotional connections, our desire for freedom, our willingness to fight for each other. Ilara, speaking for the Talons, stepped forward. For centuries, we believed we were alone in our suffering. The Dralaxians told us no other species valued emotions as we did. They said we were evolutionary mistakes. The Krell representative flashed bright colors that the translator converted to words. They tried to make us ashamed of our feelings. They called us primitive and dangerous. The Vordi speaker bubbled in its tank. They failed to understand that emotions are not weakness. They are strength. They bind us together in ways the Dralaxians cannot comprehend. Dr. Chen entered the hall, carrying a new device. It was smaller than the original emotion amplifiers but glowed more brightly. Using what we've learned from our new allies, she explained, I've developed this empathy transmitter. It allows instant communication between all our species, bridging our different forms of consciousness. When activated, the device created a field of shared awareness throughout the room. Humans, Talons, Krell, and Vordi suddenly understood each other on a profound level, beyond words. In that moment of connection, a Talon elder named Saran addressed the council. The Dralaxians called us flawed for our emotions, but it is our capacity to feel deeply, to love, to mourn, to hope, that will unite us in victory. Admiral Grant nodded solemnly. Today, we form the Alliance of the Forsaken. Together, we will show the Dralaxians that the power of emotion cannot be conquered by cold logic. The room erupted in cheers, color flashes, musical tones, and bubbling sounds, all expressions of the same feeling, hope. 1 year had passed since the Dralaxians first contacted Earth. The war had spread across dozens of star systems. What began as a fight for human survival had grown into a rebellion that threatened the entire Dralaxian Confederation. Admiral Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Freedom. The massive ship combined technology from all 4 allied species. Around it, a fleet of over 200 vessels prepared for the final push toward the Dralaxian homeworld. Status report, Lisa called out. Susan Wright, now a senior commander, looked up from her station. All ships report ready, Admiral. The Talons have linked all crews through the empathy network. The Krell battle groups are in position. The Vordi depth charges are armed. Major Steve Franklin, his face now scarred from many battles, nodded from his tactical station. The Dralaxians have gathered most of their remaining ships around their homeworld. They know we're coming. Lisa studied the display showing their target. The Dralaxian homeworld was a large planet with rings of artificial structures surrounding it. For thousands of years, no enemy had ever reached this far into their territory. Dr. Chen, is the device ready? Lisa asked. Olivia looked up from the special console she had built at the center of the bridge. Yes, Admiral. The Bridge of Minds is operating at full capacity. It's many times more powerful than our original emotion amplifiers. The Bridge of Minds was Olivia's greatest creation. Unlike the earlier devices that simply disrupted Dralaxian communications with emotional static, this new technology created a two-way connection. It would force the Dralaxians to experience human emotions while simultaneously allowing humans to understand the Dralaxian mind. This isn't about revenge, Lisa reminded her officers. Remember our mission. We don't want to destroy the Dralaxians, we want to change them. The Alliance fleet jumped into fold space. When they emerged, the Dralaxian homeworld filled their view screens. Dralaxian fleet approaching, Steve reported. Over 300 ships. Open a channel, Lisa ordered. The face of Admiral Zexthal appeared on the screen. He looked exactly the same as when Lisa had first met him a year ago. His expression showed no fear, only cold calculation. Captain Grant, he said, you have caused the Confederation much inconvenience. It's Admiral Grant now, Lisa corrected, and we've done much more than inconvenience you. We've shown that emotional beings are not weak. We are strong when we stand together. Your primitive alliance will fail, Zexthal said. Your emotions make you unpredictable but also irrational. You fight when you should surrender. You save others at the cost of your own survival. These are fatal flaws. Lisa smiled. Those aren't flaws. They're the very reasons we're here at your doorstep, when you thought we would be easily defeated. She nodded to Olivia. We have one final lesson to teach you about emotions. Olivia activated the Bridge of Minds. A wave of energy pulsed out from the Freedom, washing over the Dralaxian fleet. It penetrated their ships, their minds, their very being. Across the Alliance fleet, crews felt a sudden coldness. They experienced the Dralaxian perspective, the desperate need for order in a chaotic universe, the fear that emotion would lead to destruction, the loneliness of a species that had sacrificed connection for control. Simultaneously, the Dralaxians were flooded with human emotions. They felt love, compassion, anger, hope, grief, the full spectrum of feelings they had spent millennia trying to eliminate from their species. On the Dralaxian command ship, Admiral Zexthal gasped. For the first time in his long life, he felt something beyond cold logic. He felt the pain of those his people had enslaved. He felt the determination of humans fighting for their freedom. Most shocking of all, he felt compassion, an emotion completely foreign to his species. The battle had begun, but it was unlike any battle before. As ships fired weapons and shields flared, both sides experienced the other's perspective. Many Dralaxian crews simply stopped fighting, overwhelmed by emotions they had never known. On the Freedom, Major Steve Franklin led a boarding party onto the Dralaxian flagship. Fighting through confused defenders, they reached the command center, where Admiral Zexthal waited. Steve aimed his weapon at the alien who had ordered the destruction of Mars' colony, the attack that had killed his family. The Dralaxian didn't move to defend himself. Through the Bridge of Minds, Steve could feel Zexthal's confusion and fear. You killed my wife and daughter, Steve said, his finger tight on the trigger. Yes, Zexthal answered, his voice different, now filled with something like regret. I did not understand then what it meant to lose family. I feel it now. Steve's hand shook. He wanted revenge. He deserved revenge. But through their mental connection, he also understood something profound. The Dralaxians had evolved without emotion as a survival mechanism during an ancient disaster. They feared emotional capacity because they didn't understand it. Slowly, Steve lowered his weapon. I won't kill you. Not because I can't, but because I choose not to. That choice, that's what makes us human. Throughout the Dralaxian fleet, the fighting stopped. The Bridge of Minds had created understanding where there had only been fear and hatred. In the weeks that followed, a new kind of peace emerged. The Dralaxians agreed to free all enslaved species and dismantle their empire. In return, the Alliance would help them learn to integrate emotions safely into their society. 6 months later, Lisa, now Ambassador Grant, addressed the newly formed Galactic Concord of Species, representatives from 50 worlds, including the Dralaxian homeworld, gathered to sign the peace treaty. When the Dralaxians first contacted us, they said we were defined by conflict, Lisa told the assembly. They were partly right, but they misunderstood our nature. Humans don't fight because we love war. We fight because we love, period. And that capacity to love fiercely, to defend passionately, and ultimately, to forgive genuinely, that is humanity's greatest strength. As the delegates applauded, Dr. Alan Wright approached Lisa with exciting news. "Ambassador, you need to see this," he said, showing her images from a Dralaxian nursery. "We've documented the first case of a Dralaxian child born with active emotional centers in its brain." Lisa studied the images with wonder. "They're evolving?" Alan nodded. "It seems what the Dralaxians suppressed for thousands of years wasn't a weakness at all. It was a natural part of intelligent life that they denied out of fear." As the peace treaty was signed, Lisa watched Dralaxians, humans, Talons, Krell, and Vordi mingling together. Former enemies were now cautious allies. Former slaves were now equal partners. They wanted conflict, she whispered to herself. Instead, we showed them something far more powerful, understanding.